Next session will be Melissa and our customer success and product management teams talking about our approach in this area and based on that approach what you can expect. Melissa?
Great. Thanks, Chuck. Really appreciate that. Really happy to be here to be able to talk to you all about what we're doing with this customer success movement, but it's really important for me to set the stage that, this isn't just a team, it's a philosophy. We really believe in the long-term success of our customers, in partnering with you all in every possible way. And we just wanted to take a few minutes. It's meant to be a casual conversation. Questions are welcome, and we'll definitely open up at the end for Q&A. But I'm just going to ask a few members of the team to share with you what they do every day to listen to the customer, to hear what you're asking for, to make sure we're helping guide you in the way you need to be guided. In the end, everybody's heard me say it. A lot of you have heard me say this. I know everyone at Acrolinx has heard me say this, but we exist for no other reason than to bring value and to know that you are getting the value out of your investment in Acrolinx. So without further ado, I'll ask the team to join me on the stage. We've got Philipp Offermann, who's our Senior Product Manager. We've got Olivia Voils, who's also a Senior Product Manager. Xiomara Pilon, who is one of our Customer Success Managers based here in the US, and Todd Ettelson, who is also a tenured Senior Customer Success Manager out of our Berlin office. So very happy to have these guys here. And I said earlier, customer success is a philosophy, and that's represented here by the fact that we have product and success on the same stage. In a lot of worlds, those are very separate functions, not in our world. So I'm going to not talk a lot. I'll feed them a few questions and let them tell you in their own words, how what they feel like what they're doing is impacting our customers' success. So, Xiomara, let's start with you. I know you have a long tenure in the customer success industry. Xiomara is the newest member of our team, just joined us in December, but brings a really broad perspective around what customer success is and the impact that it's had in years past with the accounts. Can you just share a few words in your own voice as to what customer success means to you and how you're deploying it here?
Sorry. Yeah. So as a new member of customer success here at Acrolinx, I'm really, really excited to get to know all my accounts. So I think for me, I've been doing success for many years. And success has been, in the technology sector. Now it's more known, but to me, the biggest thing is my relationship with you. There's a big thing that I want you to see me not only as, a lot of people say, oh, you're my vendor. No, I'm your partner. Listening to you, to what your goals are, helping you with guidance and governance in a different way than what the product does, literally. For me is now, I'm spending time knowing the background of your accounts. I'll be, introducing myself to some of you that I haven't met you and really asking you some really hard questions. What are your goals? What are your KPIs? Do you know them? Can I help you with that? So for me, it's very, listening to you, but also, this is what I've done, or have you thought about this? And also pushing you a little bit too. I'm not shy about telling you, this is what I think you should be doing. Because I've done this with many, many, many clients. And some of you have, I work with the same companies in different facets. So for me is, again, giving you that guidance, helping you with your goals, and being there not only from the beginning, but through your journey. So year over year. So it doesn't end at deployment. It doesn't end at, we just did these professional services because we needed to do X, Y, Z. It is, I'm always going to be there for any questions. And if I have to pull in product, professional services, then that's what we need to do.
Great. Thanks, Xiomara. Thank you. Todd, let's stay on the customer success theme. You've been with Acrolinx for a long time, over 10 years. And there might be some of you in the audience who have also been with us for quite a few years, and you might be thinking, haven't really heard about this. I would love to hear your perspective, Todd, on how the evolution has gone, especially over the last year.
Okay. I'll talk a little about the past first and say 10 years ago, when I came on board, and I think some of you even know me from then, we focused very much on getting your terminology set up, your rules set up. I think we focus on customer care, but the type of customer care, I think, lacked a connection to some of the higher level objectives that Xiomara just mentioned. So we would do a deployment and onboarding, and then meet with customers on an ongoing basis to fine-tune the software. I think that really disadvantaged you in some ways because you weren't able over time to demonstrate the higher level business value of Acrolinx. And in general, over the years, we've moved more towards a point where we can demonstrate the business value of the software that you're deploying by identifying your strategic objectives, success criteria, the metrics you need to collect through these new dashboards in order to demonstrate that. Some of you, I think, have seen our shift to emphasizing building up an Acrolinx Center of Excellence that focuses on guidance and governance and metrics. And we've really evolved to a position where we're very customer-centric, planning out things more in years than in an onboarding and fine-tuning of the system.
Perfect. That's great. We'll shift gears a little bit and talk to our product managers here. I mentioned before that this collaboration between success and product is absolutely critical. Philipp, maybe we can start with you, and maybe you can share just a little bit about how our product management organization works. I know we have a small but very nimble team who has been very productive. If you can just share a bit about that.
Yeah. So we're a small team in product management. We're really 3 people, and I just want to quickly outline how we share the work, because everyone has their own area of expertise then. And when we plan something and we develop something, we'll see, okay, who can best do that? Who can best drive the process and improve the product? And we have Olivia here, who will speak in a second. But her focus is on everything that's integration related. And whenever something comes up which has to do with integrations, she'll probably jump in. And we have our whole natural language processing and the linguistic side of things. And then we have Peter as well, who is sitting here, who would look at these parts. And for example, you have seen the conversational tone we're introducing now, and that's his thing. He was driving that product development. And I'm taking over whatever's left then, basically. So, for example, in this case, I managed the analytics part and drove the implementation of analytics. And so that pretty well demonstrates how we then split around different topics for every release, what needs to be done. And Olivia looked after Acrolinx sign-in, after the sidebar, Peter after the conversational tone, and me after analytics. And then it might be different for the next release, but we'll always split up in some way. And that's how we organize, really. It's a really dynamic team then, and we see what's necessary. We also then see which developers are available, which resources we need, and pull them in for the task that is currently at hand. And so it's not a static team, really, but it changes over time with the tasks that we have.
That's great. Thanks, Philipp. And again, continuing to drive this message that we're nimble and we'll shift and adjust as we need to meet your needs. I'm going to ask Olivia to share with us a little similar to Todd. You've been with Acrolinx for quite some time. Maybe you can help everyone understand how our strategy has shifted over the years.
Yeah, so I would say that one defining thing that's changed a lot in the way that we work is also the platform thinking. So many of you know about the sidebar. There's a whole strategy associated with that, and I would say, especially in my particular role on the integration side, that's very intimately changed the way that I work. So the sidebar is a component of our software, but the fact that it's delivered with the server as part of the server, this also just reinforces that Acrolinx is a platform. So also in the way that we used to think and also work organizationally, it was more server plug-in, and there was that Lingware stuff on the side. And this has changed a lot in the way that, as Philipp said, we're working very dynamically together, very intensely. and not only preaching, thinking in this platform way, but the product is becoming more of a platform, just like we saw with the analytics. There's a tighter integration between the way that the integrations connect to the server and this metadata, which allows you to do these great dashboards. The Acrolinx sign-in, which is a feature that's completely cross-platform with the individual plugins to the sidebar to the server. And yeah, and I also have to say that the release schedule, this is also something on the sidebar side, or the server side, 3-4 releases a year, and the integrations come out regularly, but one big thing is too the way that we've been working together closely to make sure everything works. So the great strategy on the sidebar is that we throw a new server out there, and all of the sidebar integrations just work against that new sidebar and server, and that's something that has to be well thought out, of course. And this is, I would say, product strategy-wise, something that's really been the biggest change that has defined the way that we work in the last years.
Yeah, that's great. And, you know, again, the strategy's really evolved around the customer experience. You know, we've heard you, we've listened to you, and, you know, we're always innovating and thinking about what can we do differently to make your experience more positive. And what Olivia was just talking about was a huge step forward, and we have lots to come yet in that respect. We'll shift gears just a little bit and you know, talk a bit more about how, from a product perspective, how do we interact with our customers? How do we make sure that you all are well informed, that we're listening to you, and that you're getting what you need from us? And everyone on this stage plays a really critical role in that. Xiomara, I'll start with you. Can you just share a bit about, you know, how you and CS interact with our customers to help them understand things like product releases and what's impactful, and how we can help guide?
Yeah, I think part of it is, again, listening to you and asking those probing questions, you know, looking at, you know, if you have, you know, what you have right now installed, and then, you know, what is the impact of having a different version of the program, and just getting information, the information that you need. So for example, if you're moving from, you know, 4.7 to a 5.2, there's going to be a lot of features that are going to be different. So part of my role is to say, you know, these are the main features that are going to have impact on your workflow. Here's, you know, good documentation. Do you have any additional questions? How are you going to, you know, get that information to the right people? Because some of it may impact your writers. Some of it may impact you as you go through and work in your, you know, the guidance part, which is the dashboard, and giving you the information that you need, the training that you need. So, and then asking you, maybe let's wait to release because, you know, it doesn't make sense to do X, Y, Z. So, and then, you know, giving you that information and asking you again, does this make sense for you? Because we don't want you to upgrade and have, you know, other issues or, you know, change management issues. We want to make sure that you do it the right way. And sometimes we have to wait a little bit. And working through your IT as well. You know, how long does it take for you guys to upgrade? You know, what is the flow? If it's an on-prem service, it's going to be a little bit harder than, you know, it's a hosted server. So just making sure that the timeline also works for you.
Great, thanks, Xiomara. Something that's important to highlight to you all, and I hope you're starting to feel this, but we're making a very proactive effort to communicate more and more effectively on all of these types of things we're talking about. As we're constantly evolving our product, we feel like it's really important that we're being as transparent with you all as early as possible about what's coming, what the impact might be. Olivia, I know you've had a big role in ensuring that communication's getting out there. Can you share a bit with the group here around what they should be looking for and expecting from us in that respect?
Yeah, sure. So this is also something that we've improved, I think, greatly, the way that we communicate with the customers. The way we used to release software and announce availability of new things was 3 times a year, mainly when the server came out. Now we've introduced recently a new newsletter, a monthly One Voice newsletter. Hopefully everyone here is subscribed to that. If not, it's easy to sign up. If you don't know about it, just tap one of us and we can help you get signed up. And this is something that's great because it also is not just about communicating, oh, there's a new server available or a new plugin, but creating a platform for communicating other information as well. So whether it's tips and tricks or announcing other partner integrations that are available, communication in general about everything Acrolinx that we might need to let you know about. And this is a new channel, so we're always careful not to spam on newsletters, but this is, for me, also been great because the server comes out 3-4 times a year. Integrations have a different cycle, and so every month there's always updates on the integration side. Related to that, we recently introduced a software sunsetting page. So everyone who's in the software business or releases any kind of product knows that there's some kind of legacy products out there, and this is something that seems very small, insignificant, but for us it was a big step to make that transparent. So we do have a sunsetting page, and this is one way that we can proactively communicate. So it was not just a one-time thing. This is a page that we continue to update for every release to also show a migration path. So the sidebar is one good example. We're in the process of migrating all integrations to use the sidebar. We're not yet sunsetting the existing classic integrations, but this is one idea. When that time comes, we'll communicate it over this channel. The final thing is something that's going live this week.
Very exciting.
And I think Melissa had a few screenshots to show. So we have a new tool as part of our...
Maybe.
Acrolinx
Nope.
support and help center. So if you're already communicating with us through Acrolinx support, you may be using the help center form to send new inquiries, or you may be emailing. We will be introducing, going live today,
Later today.
a feature enhancement page, which will make much more transparent the way that we interact with you, you interact with us about inquiries for new functionality, and there'll be, as you know from other systems, a voting system where it will become clear, is what I'm asking for something that other customers want, or am I unique? It's something where Philipp and I, and Peter as well, will interact more directly with. So a lot of times the requests come through multiple channels. We talk about them internally, make a plan, communicate with you individually, but we want to make this more transparent, and so that you know also when we plan something, when to expect it. And this is a great new...
Yeah, we're very, very excited about this, and I'm going to encourage all of you to log on to our support portal and take a look at it. It's an opportunity for you to voice to us, what's important to you, what are you looking for, your product's great, but if it could only do this. All of those things that I'm sure you've thought, I'm sure you've shared with your CSMs or your salespeople, but we're going to have a really coordinated effort around collecting those requests. You'll have the opportunity to go in and view what requests other people have logged and vote on them if you feel like it's something that would be important to you. If you go to enter a request and someone else has already entered something similar, it will tell you. So it's a really dynamic experience that will allow us to stay very focused on what really matters to our customers. And I think that's really the theme of all of this is the fact that we can be as proactive as possible about communicating with you, but we want to hear back from you as well. We need to know what's working for you and what's not. And I hope you'll all take advantage of this great new feature. All right, fantastic, Olivia, thank you. Todd, maybe you can share a little bit about how we're working to enhance our resources for our customers, to provide you with more resources at your fingertips so you don't have to wait to schedule a training for everyone to jump on the phone at one time, which we all know is hard to do in this day and age. If you could just share a bit more about our resources.
So maybe first I'll say training has really been just a passion for me over the years, and we really work hard to enhance the trainings Is this on? Yeah?
Mhm.
Okay, sorry. Much more difficult than microphone running. We just finished a round of interviews with customers to make sure the trainings are meeting your needs and really calibrated to your needs, and then syncing the trainings up with product releases. Philipp knows that I work with him a lot to map out new training, so for analytics, just so that what we're releasing, we're ahead with the trainings, so that you're empowered to use the different features in Acrolinx. We're also building up a library of videos, video tutorials. That's a lot of feedback we get from customers, so that you have much more self-service. And then we're doing much more in the way of surveys, I think at least semi-annual surveys, so that you can give us more feedback, and then we can act on that and build up resources for you so that you get the information you need to be self-sufficient with the product.
Great, yeah. And again, I just want to stress that point of we want to hear from you. So please don't be shy.
We want to hear from you.
Reply to our surveys. Talk to us. That's great. Let's see, Philipp. Looking at the group out here, I just want to acknowledge, we've talked about the two teams that are sitting on this stage, but all of you are really the third team member. It's really, as Xiomara said at the beginning, this is a partnership, and it's really important to us, that you feel like you're always being heard, that we're always keeping your perspective in mind with everything we're doing, whether it's developing a training or building a whole new product feature set. You also have heard a little bit this week about our new analytics capability that's coming out, and that was influenced very heavily by what we heard from you, and it will continue to be. So, Philipp, maybe you can share a little bit more about how, our product strategy is built on how we're interacting with our customers.
Yeah. So we from the product strategy-wise, we have the strategy where we want to go around giving guidance and governance on content at scale, around on target, on brand. And that gives us the general themes, but then how do we fill them with life, right? How do we know what exactly to do? What are the real problems we need to solve? And just, for example, for the analytics feature, we knew for a longer time that that's a topic that comes up again and again. And then obviously we decided, okay, we want to do something here. We'll invest the resources, and we invest the time and build something out which really helps and solve the problems. Well, what are the problems then? And there's a multitude of channels which we use really. Obviously we have the existing feature requests collected in our system, which came in through the support channel. And we, Olivia and I were sitting basically every week and looking through everything that's incoming, and we classify this as a bug. Do we need to fix it right now? Is it a feature request? Do we have other customers requesting that feature? And then Olivia is very diligent in tagging everything in our system, which customers also requested that, also have that problem. And I think that's even getting much better for us now with the new system, which we're launching, and we'll have much more scale on getting that feedback in. So that's one channel which we used and which will grow using with the new system. Then obviously I'm also directly talking with lots of you, and I think some of you know me from calls where we discuss requirements, what we need to do. And that's also a big channel for us, the direct feedback. And I think every product manager has constant contact with quite a number of you. Obviously, we don't have the capacity to talk to all of you, so but we try to really get the feedback directly. For everything else, there's very close collaboration with customer service, and I think especially for the analytics, for example, I sat together with Todd and with James multiple times, getting their feedback from what they knew you needed, the problems you had, because they basically talk to all of you then in the end. So that's another channel for us as product management to get in the information in more aggregated form. And so I had multiple sessions with both of them to see what kind of dashboards do we need, what are the questions you want to have answered in analytics, what's the real problems you're having. So that's also a very important channel. And then basically we're taking all of that and we are sketching it out. And then wherever possible, we will take wireframes or preview versions and show them to some of you, show them how that would look like, and try to get the early feedback in. Also, for example, for the analytics feature now, we're looking at building some kind of a minimal feature, especially in the areas where we're not 100% sure. We're building everything we know we need to have. And then for the 5.3 release, we have already scheduled the resources to extend on that and to add everything that we want to add then. And that then will be, again, based on the feedback we're getting, what other features you really need. So while we think we'll have a really good release with the 5.2, we know that we can't have everything in the first release, so we'll iterate on it and we'll collect the feedback, we'll get the feedback directly through the system, through customer services, and in 5.3 you'll see more features coming up, which will add, again, more value to it. Yeah.
Great.
And I think that's how we do it.
Perfect. Thanks, Philip. I want to take the opportunity to pull up here. We left plenty of time in this session. We do have one other topic that we want to cover that's more specific to integrations, because I know that's near and dear to a lot of your hearts, and you have questions about that strategy and how to get the integration you're looking for. So we'll get there, but being that that's a little more specific, I'd love to pull up and just, I hope some of you would be willing to speak up and just, ask questions or share a little bit about your experience, having worked with these teams in regard to what your needs are. Any brave souls out there that are willing to speak up? Okay, great. Cynthia, do you have a mic? Or okay, Jen.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Stuart from Juniper Networks. We're not yet an Acrolinx customer, but I think it's just a matter of time now. And as I'm thinking about what we're going to do, I'm kind of imagining how we're going to roll it out and adoption issues and change management. And I see there's probably some hurdles that we're going to need to deal with. And I'm wondering if you, based on your experience with customers adopting the product, are there any tips you might have, kind of broad areas? And one thing I noticed yesterday, a couple of people independently mentioned that it seems like it's best to start with a relatively smaller number of rules and terms and to kind of grow rather than trying to put the whole thing in at first. So I wondered if you agree with that, if you had any other suggestions.
Great question. And I'll ask Todd or Xiomara to speak up on that, because what you just said is absolutely also a shifting philosophy.
And you answered a lot of your own question, I think. Because, yes, you should really keep your... I'm sorry, this water's not full. You should keep your rules limited and focused and really aligned with your business objectives, which will help you identify. I think it's great to focus on the clarity score, which is a more holistic approach to what your content's like, making sure it's readable. And then for terminology, focus on your key, do not use words first, words and phrases. And you can also put in important product names to make sure that you're writing them correctly. But that would be the focus, get it set up quickly, get trained, so that you're empowered to use the system and sustain the deployment, and then get the most benefit early on with metrics that you can show that you're starting to meet your business need.
Yeah, and that's a key point, I think, that Todd mentioned. We're trying to help you all put a heavier focus on business objectives. What problem are you really trying to solve? And that's where it becomes less about fine-tuning the rules to make sure every little thing works right, and focusing on the bigger picture. You'll probably, if you haven't already heard it, you'll hear Andrew say over and over: start broad, then go deep. Get the high level of value, and then we can work with you over the coming months, years to fine-tune. Xiomara, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, and it's what you just said about finding what are you trying to solve, what are your pain points, and having a communication strategy for your end users. That's going to be pretty critical, because if you're starting small with small terminology rule sets, what are the things that you're doing after deployment, what are you trying to prove with the deployment, and have little key wins along the way. It's in communicating that to the end users, because at the end of the day, if they're not using the system, you have a very fine-tuned system, it's not doing you any good. So yeah, having that conversation, and we can help you with that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Baron Sinclair, excuse me, from Chevron Corporation, and I'm glad you called on me next because my question is sort of the next step after his. We are Acrolinx customers, but very, very new ones. We're not very far along at all, and one thing we have been asked about is something in the tool to create templates, and we don't really know how to respond to that because we haven't seen anything like that in the product yet. So I guess what I was wondering, do you have materials that could help us with that, or would that be something maybe somebody on your staff could help us with directly? If you could comment on that, I appreciate it.
Who wants to take that one? Yeah.
Sorry, since I've worked with Chevron, maybe Baron, so when you say create templates, something in Acrolinx that would support actually the creation of specific templates, or maybe just clarify the question a bit so we can understand more if it's product side or something we can talk about on the customer success side.
Okay. I'm not sure how to respond to it because when,
Okay.
I'm sorry, when I was asked the question, it didn't come together. It didn't come together for me. So I guess I would say anything that would lead to a template concept in terms of the way you're structured. I mean, if that doesn't come together at all, that's okay.
I think the best idea, because I know your deployment really well, is just in that break we can talk. I'm happy to look at it.
But I think to address that point, an area where Acrolinx can absolutely play a role is addressing the consistency. So when you talk about templates, it's about delivering the same message over and over, right?
Right, it is.
And I think that, is absolutely a role, maybe we don't create the templates, but we help you review those templates to make sure the message is consistent, whether it's across multiple products or whatever the case may be.
And the one thing to keep in mind is that, if you're asking for specific templates to create, every corporation's different. Your workflow may be a little bit different. So it's probably going to be something specific to you as well. So it's unique to you and what you're using the templates for. So
yes.
Definitely we could have that conversation and give you some guidance around that.
Yeah.
Right. We were thinking about, different types of documents. We're asked to do a lot of different types of things.
Sure.
So what I think this could relate to, actually we had initially also a problem because we have templates for example, a data sheet or a quick reference guide, or even a training. And then we got a lot of false flags, basically, which really annoyed people a lot. Mm-hmm. So then when we actually cleaned up the templates, that didn't happen anymore, and that might be related to that. And that was actually a nice side benefit of the Acrolinx deployment, because we could now demonstrate that if you don't use a great template, then you have a lot of flags that you should not otherwise get.
That's a great point. Thank you for that feedback.
Thank you so much.
Are there other questions, comments?
Hi, Elizabeth Finch from Symantec. Wow, this is really loud. My question is, I'm a writer, so I'm looking at it from an individual contributor point of view. And, in the 3+ years I've worked at Symantec, the UI has not changed. The experience hasn't changed at all for me. One of the things, though, that I was kind of powerfully hit with yesterday was the slide on the cost of localization and how this helps that. Can you add something like that as feedback? You've reduced word count, you've reduced, projective costs to individual writers, because that's a powerful feedback.
For the cost savings, we have a cost savings calculation in the analytics section of the product. And you can configure for a different kind of issues how much costs you think are associated with correcting them, also for translation as well as for editing. And then you have cost savings dashboard, which gives you a breakdown how much costs you saved every week, every month, and in which category you save these costs. You don't see that, okay.
But I think, Philipp, you mentioned this yesterday, I believe, with the new analytics, we're going to have the capability to email reports out on a consistent basis. And this is guidance we'll start building in as we work with administrators on what are those things that would be really important for your writers to see, to know that it's making an impact. And we can certainly discuss the right guidance on that, but that will be a much easier, we will have a much easier way to share. Okay. Okay. Great to know, yeah.
Okay,
Great. The mic's not on.
How's that?
Much better.
Whoa, super loud. I continue to struggle with how to educate organizations on what constitutes a sound term submission, particularly in the realm of software, where things are very amorphous sometimes and not parts or things in the real world. And I have struggled to connect with other terminologists or other people who can sort of help me succinctly educate people in my organization on what is a good term and what is a bad term. What are your suggestions on how to cope with that?
Todd?
But I want you to ask this in tips and tricks too. So I don't want to be the judge of a good term and bad term. I actually, with Acrolinx, tend to take a pretty pragmatic approach. Probably working with me, you know that, and look at it very much from a checking perspective. So I do focus first on identifying your deprecated terms or do not use terms. They will clearly flag. You want to have clear synonyms connected to those so you get suggestions, and that really has an impact on your writing. Then the next step is product names, making sure they're written correctly, getting those in. Then different customers have different use cases. Some want to put jargon and focus much more on voice through the terminology. And then I think, as you know, there's a localization use case where the terminology is set up much more from a knowledge management perspective. Localization wants to use it as a lookup tool. And that can start to open up maybe a tension between the source terminology and what localization is using the terminology for.
That's the exact situation.
It has to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. And again, I would say start small and with those terms that will bring you the most value in checking.
Thanks.
Yeah, and that always brings us back to what we mentioned earlier around, ensuring that anything and everything you're doing is tying back to that higher level business value and being able to communicate that throughout your organization. Why are you doing this? What really matters? It's not just we're trying to tell you, Mr. Writer, how to do your job. It's, there's a bigger goal and perspective in mind here, and to the extent that you can articulate that all the way throughout the organization.
Maybe one thing I'll say there, really setting up a center of excellence and governance processes, governance body, that helps you do that.
Yeah.
And bring different groups together so that you can start to have discussions and tie these lower level requirements back up to higher level objectives.
Yes, exactly. Are there other comments or questions? Jennifer in front.
Hi, I'm Andrzej Powłocki from Veritas. We are using Acrolinx for InfoDev content, for creation of the content. And right now I'm considering the case if we could use Acrolinx to verify this content after translation, to kind of evaluate or score how good it is coming back after translation. So I'd like to know if you have some success stories about such cases or any comments to this approach?
Translation into, are you checking it for terminology, or what are you checking it for?
So the original English content is created with Acrolinx with controlled language or this plain language to be easier for translation. Now it is translated, got back from translation. We would like to run on, say, German or Japanese and see what's the score of the content that we're receiving back.
I mean, I think the first thing, it has to be one of the languages that Acrolinx fully supports.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't know of any success stories that we have, but maybe we can.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a really interesting concept, because I think we definitely deal with the translation use case, but it's often more prior to translation, getting things really streamlined so that you save on translation costs. But your thought about checking post-translation to make sure it still reads right and carries the same message is a very valid use case. So we could absolutely work with you on that.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Okay, we have just a few minutes left, so let's just wrap up the session. We're going to have Olivia share with you all a little bit about our integration strategy and how we, we want to hear from you. We collect your feedback, how we prioritize when we're going to roll out a new plugin, and then it would be, I think, good if you could share a little bit, Olivia, about when custom integrations might come into play.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa. So we have a lot of integrations that we support, if you haven't noticed, and the number seems to always be increasing. And but having said that, there's only so many integrations that we can continue to build anew and support and maintain. And so one thing I mentioned already is the sidebar strategy. So the approach we're taking now to prioritization and releases is the migration to the sidebar. So we still have many Classic Edition integrations that are still in use, and I know many of you probably aren't even using the sidebar yet, and we've been talking about it probably as if everybody is, and we know that the migration is a longer term thing, and so that's a big part of the prioritization right now. So we have many customers who are using the same editors, and so the ones that have the biggest impact, of course, we focus on first. We did start with Microsoft Word, and everything after that we prioritized based on different platforms, and also I'm constantly looking at when is X vendor coming out with the next version of Y tool, or it's a big list, and so keeping up with that is a big challenge. Also, we're dividing our time now between building new integrations for the sidebar. So for example, Oxygen is something we're working on now. At the same time, new versions are coming out, so we have to go back and add support for the Classic Edition until the sidebar's there. So yeah, this is one part of the strategy that we're working on that's very present, and I think that with the One Voice newsletter, you'll see as we add new integrations and updates to these sidebar integrations. So we're already iterating on the sidebar editions that are out there. And if you're not using the sidebar yet because you're using, for instance, XMetal, which we're releasing now for the sidebar, Arbortext is yet to do, for example. So there's a reason for the order there. Arbortext also doesn't, for instance, update until later in the year, so we're always trying to support the latest versions that come out by the vendors. So having said that, that's one big part of what I do. Another part is the custom integration discussion. So I get lots of questions about, have you thought about an integration for this tool? Or are you planning to support I don't know, any number of web applications or whatever the tool might be. So another part of my job is engaging with customers and third-party, either partners or third-party integrators in building custom integrations built on our sidebar or our APIs. So this is another thing where, if you haven't talked to me already about this, many people are asking, especially from the analytics perspective, can we get Acrolinx integrated directly in our CMS? So this is something that we used to be preaching about more, but in the last couple of years, more customers have really been coming to us for this. And a big part of the program behind this, so we've now got more transparency to how the process works for custom integrations. If you've talked to me about this before, I always pull up a page in our Help Center which breaks down the process into steps, points you directly to the SDKs where you can get them. We have a certification process around it and technical support to make sure that you do the things right. One part of the sidebar strategy was also not only to be able to deliver more value to you in the integrations more quickly with release cycles, updating the sidebar as I mentioned, and delivering new value through all of the editors you're using, but also to enable partners and customers to build their own integrations. So if you've ever wondered, oh, can Acrolinx work in my editor? It probably can, and it may be easier than you think, especially with the sidebar, especially if it's a web application using an editor that we already know works. So I think the message there would be continue to ask. We get inquiries constantly, and we do choose carefully which ones to develop as standard Acrolinx integrations. So yeah, I think that's
great. Thanks, Olivia. Any questions on the integrations piece? She's coming with the microphone.
Hi, Lori from Cisco. So do you have a date set for the sidebar feature integration with Oxygen?
With Oxygen? No, it's still a little high level. So Oxygen is also not just one thing. There's actually two integrations there. So there's the standalone desktop version and Eclipse. So we have started it. We're on sort of alpha versions of both.
Okay.
But we do aspire to release them as one time frame because a lot of customers are using both. So it would not make sense to release them independently of each other. Right now we're targeting the third quarter. So as we get closer and have more experience in testing and move a little more to beta than alpha, then we'll know the time frame there.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions on integrations? Oh, there's one in the back.
Hi. I was wondering, I'm Lynn Carrier, I'm from Illumina, and I was wondering, with the sidebar, is the intention of that it should make it easier to support when software does revise? So we use Flare primarily, and what we found is we tend to be about one version behind with the plugins. And so will the sidebar allow you to kind of respond more quickly to those?
So do you mean when Madcap comes out with a new version?
Yes.
How quickly? Yeah. So this is also an ongoing challenge. Like I mentioned before, all vendors are constantly coming out with new versions. So this part of the job doesn't change. So it is a challenge for us to keep up with that. I'm very engaged in, when they're available, beta programs, and also we were with Madcap as well. So we are working on the latest version as well, and but that's a part of the integration side that doesn't change from the classic edition to the sidebar.
Okay.
So hopefully the changes will become, I guess, a little more straightforward with the sidebar because there's less of an imprint on the actual editor side with the sidebar.
Yeah,
but we still have to do QA and the certification, and so there's still a lot of effort there.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Nope.
So for those of us with lots and lots of plugins, our users still have to upgrade their local plugins, like for Word or whatever. Is there anything on the horizon where we might be able to have some more web-like service to assist with those upgrades? I mean, right now it's a heck of a manual process to have to email all the people, find all the users, have them download the plugins and upgrade them. Is there anything on the horizon that would help with that process for us using some nice cloud technologies?
I know you submitted a feature request around this, Mike. So as part of the analytics, we do know which versions of integrations, Acrolinx integrations, users are using. So as a first step, we could use the new dashboards to at least get an overview of who's using what. And we could definitely consider how we can build on that information. So the next step is then to connect with those people. That's where I have to talk to Philipp about. This is where it's a good example of the cross-platform. So all of that information has always been available. It's a matter of then mapping that back. But yeah, with the sidebar, I think that we're in a better position also than ever to close the loop on some things like that. So we don't yet have that on the roadmap, but it's definitely something that we can look at going forward.
Great. I think there was one other question over on this side.
Hi, this is Lisa Stammer with Medtronic, and this isn't really related to integration, but just a couple of basic questions. You mentioned the new support feature that you're going to be rolling out. Will that just be automatic? Like if we've already entered tickets in the past, will it just be, there's nothing different we need to do?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So we're still making a plan around exactly how that will be. I think that in my experience, we will, also carefully pick requests that we've received already in the backlog over and over. So as Philipp said, I'm meticulously adding up all of the customers who have, I'm doing that manually right now, so I think that will make sense to, on behalf of customers, put that out there in some form and then allow those things for voting. So in my interest, I would definitely want to do that. We haven't yet made a plan on the details.
So you'll let us know if there's somewhere different that we need to go to be entering questions?
Oh, yeah.
Or will it be the same address?
Oh, I see what you mean. So from a customer user experience, when you go, so it's also worth pointing out that not everyone, as I mentioned at the beginning, submits inquiries through the web form on our help center. So you may not know what I'm talking about in mentioning that, but there is a web form. A lot of people just write an email to support@acrolinx.com, and that gets changed into a ticket. So this is also one effort where if we can filter people towards using this form, it's perfectly fine. If you do send an email, we'll translate that into a feature request in that new space. But this is one reason why it would be better to use that form for feature requests, because you can give more specific information in different fields, and that will just pop up in the new view.
And you'll also immediately see what others have already submitted.
So we will go to the same place in the future to do that?
On our support portal. There will be a tab that says what feature request. I think it says product features right now.
Yeah.
But your user experience won't change if you're already using that.
Okay. Yep. And I just have one other quick question. You also mentioned about this new newsletter that you're going to be sending. Can we just go to the site and sign up for that, or how do we do that?
Please. It's been live since January, so if you haven't gotten it yet, please ensure that you're enrolled.
Thank you.
I have two comments. Two comments, yeah. First thing on that direct point, thank you for saying that. Reminded me to say something, which is there are a bunch of people who, for whatever reason, maybe a long time ago in the past, who have unsubscribed from Acrolinx, all communications from Acrolinx. And then a couple of years later, they complain to us that they're not getting our newsletters, or they're not getting invited to the customer event or whatever. So if you feel you're not getting communicated with us, from us, by us, whatever, you know what I mean, then please get in touch and we'll fix whatever your subscription issues are. But it's not always our fault. That's what I want to say. First thing. Second thing is on the sidebar. I think it might be worth mentioning that a lot of the functionality in the sidebar is pumped in by the server. So in fact, the hope is you won't have to update the sidebars so often because it's just a container to some extent filled with server capabilities. So some of that will go away.
Great.
Is that reasonable?
Okay, well, I think we're about out of time. Thank you all for your time. If you take anything away from this, please let it be that we're here for you. We want to partner with you. We want to hear from you. We're going to be sharing more and more and more with you. So communication is key. Let's partner. All right, thank you.